Well, welcome to 180 U-Turn, the talk show that features some of the greatest conversion stories of our time. Stories of men and women who are on the highway to hell when they encountered a Damascus Road experience that turned their lives completely around. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Savant, and today we're broadcasting live from Church on the Street at the Dream Center at the heart of Phoenix, Arizona, one of the top post-prison transition, detox, and rehabilitation facilities for inmates, drug, and alcohol abuse. For more information on their prison ministry, rehabilitation services, weekly meetings, and special events, just hop out to their website at cotsphoenix.org. That's cotsphoenix.org. And hey, don't forget, if you want to write me at the show, please feel free to do so. My email address is steve@180uturn.com. That's steve@180YOUTURN.com. And I love your exhortations, your scriptures. I got a lot last night. I was like, oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you for that. And I just really exhort you, if you're going to share stuff, sometimes you don't know that what you're sharing is really helping me. So we all have a synergistic place to play, and if you got something for me, please send it in an email. Well, today we're in day 4 of Hannah Sherry's story. Welcome back to our show, Hannah. And I want you to know, if you haven't seen this first 3 episodes, you need to watch them. I would get a box of tissues and get ready to have a good cry. You have to have compassion for stories like this. You have to have empathy. If you don't have it, you need to wake up. We can't be Christians and have hard hearts. We have to be soft and palatable before the Lord. There has to be a fire in us for unrighteousness. We have to defend people that are getting killed and by relationships and codependency and all these things. We need to be all in and offering everything we can to people who have went down a line of thinking that is just off and demonic, in my view.
Yes, it is.
Okay. You still were going through periods of blackouts. You were still going, off and running in the streets. But you started walking the streets. Sometimes you just walk out there naked.
Yes.
You're saying you're just walking around. Not once, not twice. And this isn't like the old college days of streaking and just having fun out there.
No. This is me listening to the voices that were telling me, they would tell me to do things like go into places that were very dangerous, like places like near Skid Row and stuff. Mm-hmm. And dressed what's the word? Dressed loosely. And and then sometimes they would tell me to take my clothes off. And I was doing it because of this whole deception that the more I broke, the more lawlessness, the more taboos I was breaking, the more closer to godhood I was getting. Mm-hmm. And so everything I was stealing from stores and just going around on the street and finding people to get high with, and it's got to the point that I was having sex with random people on the street. Just like at this point, it was like really I'm trying to it's like where am I? I didn't know where I was at all. It was just completely out of my control almost.
What's amazing to me is I'm thinking about that passage in Mark 5. Where the demoniac, according to the Bible, is in the cemeteries, naked, doesn't have any clothes. We're pawning this off as New Age thinking that if you do, the more lawlessness and unconventional you are, the more power you become right. A bigger God, a stronger God, more empowered person. But actually, this is it's at the edge of such demonic delusion, and I can understand how schizophrenia could play into this big time, right? And all this is happening, and this is not, it's so dishonoring to God because He made you in His image, and this image that we've painted for the last 3 days, and now we're in the 4th episode, is about as antithetical and as far away from God as it can get.
Yes.
This is why I keep pleading to you. If you have problems in your life, listen, let me tell you, if God can fix a gal like Hannah, fix a guy like Steve, why can't He fix you?
That's right.
Why can't He fix you? You are not out there so unredeemable, so you've dug a pit so deep that you don't think God's arm is long enough to drag you out of there. And even if you dug it yourself, I'm not so sure you dug all this yourself, but even if you did, He's willing if you'll cry out to Him. I love that line. It says, all those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And 32 times in the Old Testament and New Testament, He says to cry out to the Lord. Sometimes I don't know how to pray in English. Sometimes I don't know. Some of my gifting in Corinthians doesn't quite work. Sometimes when I have groanings too deep, like Romans says, but calling on when I don't know anything else to do, it's Jesus. I just call out His name. Now, speaking about that, you finally came to an understanding that God was real in the hospital, right? You're having all these hospitalizations.
So yeah, it still took, after praying, I need help. That was, God revealed to me later that was the time that he was able to come in and start, because I surrendered. I didn't know that I was surrendering to God. I think in my heart I kind of knew, but it took a few more months and a few more hospitalizations before I realized that it was God that was trying to straighten my life out.
Did you have any contrary voices in your head telling you different?
So I still had the same chaos, and things were getting crazier. Like, I don't have the words for it. The way that I describe it is like I had one foot in hell. I already did. And I knew I was going to hell. I didn't have any hope. I didn't believe that there was anything but hell at the time. And I knew I was breaking spiritual laws, but I didn't know how I was breaking them or how to fix it. So finally there was something, this phrase that was bouncing around in my head for a couple of weeks, and I just didn't really notice it because there's so much noise going on anyway, right? But then I realized, hey, I never read that anywhere and I never heard it anywhere. I think that God put that thought in my head and in my heart, and that was having Jesus is like having a lawyer, meaning he knew that I needed to know he could defend me against everything that was coming against me, all the evil that was out smarting me, that was holding me down. He told me that was, so I knew Jesus first as lawyer, as savior, and soon after that, like, there's this woman on the street. I was walking another time. This was when I was just starting to realize, it's like, okay, maybe this is Jesus, and I was starting to believe. And then this woman met me on the street, and she said, "Can I pray with you?" And she prayed with me, and I don't remember anything she prayed, but I remember my eyes were closed, and I could see everything that was happening, like in the spirit realm. And my ex was there, and I could see just these demons in him. And this woman was pulling me, and it was like she was pulling me out of his grip and into this light, and he backed off, like it's like he couldn't come near her anymore, and so
much for his godlike qualities,
right? Yeah. He's, I turned around and he was sitting slumped over on the wall, but so she prayed with me, and I believe that was my first encounter with the Holy Spirit.
But I like this. I'm going to go backtrack a little bit here. When God is real, his name is Jesus. But I like your this is a very strange way of grasping God. Having Jesus is like having a lawyer to defend me. I love that because, the Bible says he's our advocate.
Yeah.
Right? He's an advocate.
And I never knew that. That was supernatural. It had to be the way that it was because he was the only one that could have reached me. I
have to say, when I did your pre-interview and I got off, I sat back in my chair in my office, and the first thing that came to me was the Christmas Carol, the ghost of Christmas Present. And the ghost is outside talking to Scrooge, and he opens up his robe, and there are two gaunt, starving little children there. And he says, "Spirit, who are these?" And he goes, "These are humanity's children, right?" He says, "The boy's name is Ignorance. The little girl's name is Want." And as soon as I heard that, I thought of you. This girl needs to be protected. And the Ghost of Christmas Present says, "They come to me for protection, and I offer it to them." Don't you love that? This is Jesus. I come to Jesus for protection.
Yes.
And he takes me in.
Yes.
Right? I love stuff like that.
Yes. He chose me. It's always amazing to me, and I'm so grateful because I was as far away from God as you could be. I really was. And yet he reached into the hell that I was in, and he chose me, and he pulled me out of it, and he gave me an opportunity to follow him, even though I did leave for a while, and then I came back to my old life, and he got me out again. So it wasn't
long though. It was pretty brief, right?
It was brief.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I want to kind of emphasize, is when you're thinking about, when you're leaving the kind of world you were in, right? The transition, it's like here's a perfect example. It's like, when it's really dark in winter. Now it's not dark now. The sun's coming into my bedroom at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? But in the wintertime, it's not coming until 7:30, right?
Yeah.
And your eyes are not accustomed to the light when you first get up. And maybe you have to shave, or maybe you have to do something that you can't just bounce around in the bathroom. You got to flip the light on. And your eyes are not used to the light. And they're dilated wide. And as you're walking down the dark hall, ready to get to the bathroom to turn the light on, your eyes are so dilated, they're groping for light. By the way, that's the actual optic explanation. Your eyes are dilating, looking for light. Your natural condition of your life is looking for light.
Yes.
So, and when the light turns on full power, you're blinded by it because you're not used to it. Right?
Yes.
So transitions from darkness at this level is something can be really blinding.
Yeah.
Because you're coming into a whole new world that's like antithetical to everything you've been into.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about your mom. How did your mom get you over to? I mean, you're living in California. I heard anything about Phoenix, Arizona, until here, where we're at the church on the street at the Dream Center. How'd you get here?
Well, so my dad, my biological father, he lives here in Arizona, and he had 2 more kids later too. So I have another half brother and another half sister by him. My brother was doing the same things that my dad had been doing. He was doing drugs in prison, and then he came here and he went through the program, and his whole life was changed. And so I knew about this place from my brother. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew like that was my next step, was to come here.
Now I don't want to dig into too deeply, because we're going to get into that whole scene tomorrow's episode. But when you first come to a place like this, and you had a little problem, you went left, came back left, real quick jaunts out, but then you finally came back and said, "Okay, I'm staying."
Yes,
I'm staying, putting down roots. And when you did, there's a lot of God talk here. A lot of Bible talk, right? And there just is, right? There's a lot of worshiping the Lord through music, right? This is all absolutely new to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just give me your first, you're a Christian now, you just don't know what that means. You don't know how to be a Christian, you just know you are one. And do you think the learning curve was steep, or is it pretty gentle skirting? You're just picking up on the things of the Lord and so forth?
For me, I wanted everything Jesus, like right away. Like as soon as it was like I was clinging to him. So when I got here, the first person that I met, my sister Cesare, she's a woman of God, and she doesn't like hold back her worship. She doesn't hold back her love for God. She just shows it, and she was who I saw on the first day. And it was so funny because in my mind I was like, that's my sister, like I knew. And I just kind of watched her, and so I learned how to pray openly, and I learned how to worship openly. And this was just the perfect environment to do it. It really was. Like I'm so grateful, and I see why God took me here. There, after everything that I was in, I think if I'd have been taken to any other environment, I might have slipped back again. But I was so immersed in God here.
How was the environment affecting your schizophrenia that was diagnosed later as an adult? How's that happening in your depression?
Well, so when I first came here, when I first got off meth, I decided I'm healed. God healed me, and I went off my meds, and that was a mistake because God didn't tell me to go off my meds. I just did. And so for a while it was okay, and I feel like God was kind of holding that back for me. But as time went on, the depression started coming back, and then the delusional thoughts and the weird thoughts started coming back slowly, and then over time it was getting stronger and stronger until God finally gave me a revelation that I had to go get back on medication. And now I'm stable on medication. For the first time in my life, I've been stable on medication for the longest amount of time, which has been 6 months. And that's just the work of God in my life, because without God I wouldn't take my medication. But so being here was the best place I could have been, because there's so much grace here that is given, so much understanding, there's so much love here that any of the weirdness that I was giving off and showing people, like it was not judged. It was taken with love. And
this is a pretty strange environment here at Church on the Street. I mean, you get to operate with a lot of latitude.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of grace and mercy applied to that. So people, if you're coming in here looking for a boot camp, it's not like that, right? It's really not. But it's demanding. There's still things going on. There's disciplines that need to be introduced into your life. I like all that. Well, listen, we got to go on to tomorrow's show, so we're going to have to cut off to this episode now. But remember, for any information you want on Church on the Street, Dream Center, what's going on here, just hop out to their website at cotsphoenix.org. That's cotsphoenix.org for any information on their prison ministries, their rehabilitation services, weekly meetings, and special events. So until next time, I'm Steve Savant, and remember, no one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.